don't understand this idea of value. What is this value? This is, do we have value enough to justify what we're doing? Okay. Yes, there is value in our decision to do this because there's people in it. Okay? Or there's no value because it's commercial through the roof. That's what that concept is. The whole time value size. Do we have value? Yes or no? That determines what your mode of operation is. Is that clear to everybody? Does everybody understand that?
And you know why it's ongoing? Because the situation's dynamic. If we're not meeting our objective and the fire is growing, we need to be doing that ongoing risk assessment. Right? So, that thing, think of you're in a position doing a RIC evolution and you don't want to lose any more people. What decision have you had to make? Not you, but commands had to make, right? Nobody else is going in. That's a tough one. But that's part of doing that ongoing risk. And everybody should be doing it. Time. How much time can we safely operate in the structures? And as Bill's brought up, it's critical. It can be maybe not all the structure, but parts of the structure.
What determines time?
Every building time of day that it was called in, if it's nighttime, it's going to be a lot longer.
Okay, burning longer,
Burning
yeah.
for a lot longer.
Or you can use working time. How much working time do we have? What determines interior working time? What makes that determination?
Well, the fire's actually been in the structural numbers, not necessarily room contents.
Yeah. How long it's been burning? What kind of building it is? And all those things.
You guys remember, or do you know? Yeah, when the call comes in. It used to be once you got on scene, but what we decided was it was better when the call came in because it clocks you from even when you got on scene. You know it took you 4 minutes to get there, and you've been on scene 6 minutes, and now you got your first 10-minute ticker. Versus I get on scene and I got 10 minutes. That's a big difference in some of these structures. So determined by type of construction. Yep.
I'm sorry, back to the 10-minute ticker. Does it start when we're dispatched or when the call comes in?
When the call comes into dispatch.
So they are already starting it. How are they doing that?
I can't technically tell you how they're doing that, but that is what we request of them. If the 10-minute ticker starts from my guess is be when it goes to
The
TAC 2.
dispatch.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So it's probably at dispatch time, not necessarily at call.
When it switches to TAC 2, I would think.
So
When you
there's,
think by dispatch time.
roughly a couple minutes. Okay.
Yeah, 60 to 90 seconds where it's got a little bit of a hedge.
Okay.
But it's not the whole time from you getting on scene. That's a good point, though.
They started dispatching us now, though, right when they got the call. Before they would get all the information and then dispatch it, right? And so they
Depends.
changed it.
Depends on where the questions lead them through the algorithm for priority dispatch. If they're doing it right, yeah, we can be dispatched to a fire within like 30 seconds. Yes. That one really depends on how the call lays out in the algorithm,
And probably the dispatcher.
how familiar they are with it. Yeah. So types of construction determines the time of play. I think they're listed. There we go. Probably a bad analogy is recreational time.
It's probably working time, not recreational.
Probably a really bad analogy. I'll edit that before we leave.
Yes, I think it's something that, see the whole ordinary construction up there? Traditionally, ordinary construction is block and joist, something you see in older cities. But sometimes you hear there's a modern version of ordinary construction. So there seems to be differing opinions about exactly what ordinary construction is. Just know, for our purposes in Aurora, we don't have very many true ordinary construction buildings. Those are actually probably the best buildings to fight fires in. Like maybe some old stuff along Colfax, where you have true dimensional lumber in there, 2x6s, 2x8s, beefy stuff.
consider what all.
Just know whenever you're seeing that term ordinary, make sure that you understand whether it's old school ordinary or modern ordinary. They're two very different.
I think we said the only heavy timber is the Beck Center. You've got buildings on Fitz made to look like heavy timber, but I don't think they're truly heavy timber.
I
So
don't.
we're probably dealing with most commonly fire resistant, non-combustible, and lightweight. In summary.
Mhm. Mhm. Now, when you see this lightweight wood truss, 5 minutes of working time, does that mean you got 5 minutes to get out there and put the fire out? Is that what that means? What does that 5 minutes mean? 5 minutes from the start of what?
When it gets
Structural.
Yeah, when it gets into the attic. That's when the clock starts. That's the beauty of Aurora, because we don't tend to have a lot of big fires because we generally get there pretty darn quick. Now, if we were a volley department, I'm sure we'd have some pretty spectacular fires just because it would take us longer to get there. So just in fact, with the whole lightweight wood truss, anytime you ever have a top floor fire, and that could apply to a ranch style house, anytime the fire is right below the attic, always be suspect. Attic, 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 attic. Anytime you have an exterior fire, attic, attic, attic. Always rule out the attic. Because it's gonna go there. It's just gonna happen.
So the question then becomes, do you have time for an offensive attack? So you can take the construction, figure out, has it involved the structural members? Is it direct flame? And it's gonna change your working time. That's gonna be a hard one for me. Working times. Size. So this is when you need to know, if you haven't worked with your office on this one, how to determine what size hose line. You can make some standardizations, I think, when as a chief I would expect to see a 2.5. But to justify your actions, knowing how to calculate what you need is helpful. So length times width divided by 3, and the percentage of involvement.
Now, do you need to get your calculator out? Be the first in, acting officer?
Yeah.
You know,
Brad, what do you think?
something much simpler. Big fire, big water. You know, pretty much all dwellings, inches required. So anything commercial, retail, high rise, 2.5. It's pretty simple. It doesn't have to. You don't have to. This is kind of nice to know, but I don't know that I've ever actually used that before.
You wouldn't pull a 2.5 inch for, like on an apartment fire, the potential
Probably not,
still inches.
because of how much
of-
compartmentalization you have. In my mind, the 2.5 is for high-rise commercial. You know, high rises, you know, not necessarily apartment buildings. Our typical apartment building, I wouldn't do that. Because you think about, you know, the potential BTU there, you know, with all compartmentalized, there's not a ton of BTU. A high rise, yes, because you've got pressure issues, you've got bigger spaces, more, you know, distance that you've been.
Didn't you guys pull a 2.5 to Hickory Ridge
We did an apartment life.
and then broke off of that one?
Yeah. So,
So that is something to think about.
Yeah, AIDS pulled a 2.5 inch for brush fire because it went up to the back of, right there off of Idalia in Mexico, because it went up to the back of those apartments. I mean, it didn't get close. It was probably still 30 feet away, but because of the potential.
well, you've got a boatload of reach too, with 2.5.
Yeah.
So,
I think this one again just helps with the decision making. Do we generally pull an 1 3/4? Yeah. Is it generally enough? Yeah. But the times when it hasn't been enough, it's gotten us into trouble because the building, the construction, and the amount of fire didn't call for an 1 3/4. We're just used to pulling it. So understanding when you need to pull a 2.5 versus an 1 3/4. You don't, as Bill said, fight commercial structures, strip malls like you fight a house fire, because that's when you run into problems. Yeah, your overall goal is you want to be able to get extinguishment. If you've got too many BTUs for the amount of water that you're flowing, you're not going to get there, and then therefore not keeping anyone safe. Pretty simplistic way to look at it. So the strategic goal, remember I said that's your overall plan. What are you trying to achieve? And then all your tactical objectives and your tasks support that strategic goal, whatever that is. So this is another acronym. It's much better than COLE as well. It simplifies. So are you guys familiar with RECIO, VS, or REVIS? I've got some yeses and some no's. So what would you think R is if you're not familiar, based on our instant priorities? Rescue. You're saying no?
Oh, I was just, no, I was,
No, Judy, you're wrong.
I didn't see you wrong.
What would you think E is then? Extinguish.
Maybe I actually got it as exposure, so I mean, you could,
Okay, I do the exposures on the other E. So C.
so
they go,
you're doing the ratio.
yeah, sorry.
So, these two particular things, sometimes
It's
new
what you
company
do.
officers use them as just when you get there and you're like, oh God, you know, if you got something quick that you can remember, I mean, this is something you can use, but LIP is even easier. Life safety, life safety, life safety, just remember that, life safety, and everything to support life safety. That's about,
Rescue,
you know,
exposures,
that's one little L to remember,
Extinguishment, confine it.
pretty easy to, you know, for your initial, you know, actions. Going through all these, RECIO, VES,
For me, it's like paramedic school, they give me the acronym and I can't remember what I was supposed to do with it. I had to know the intent and never could get there with the acronyms. Oh.
Sorry, what was the
see, not something really that's gonna direct your initial acting officer, you're not gonna be saying, okay, how we gonna overhaul? That's a good little bit of time.
And for Rebus, it's rescue,
Exposure,
vent.
vent,
Attack.
attack,
Search.
and snack.
Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking.
And then she'll be hungry.
I don't know,
It's the things you do if you cover what your objectives are.
Yeah.
So,
these particular things, you kind of need to just understand how your brain works. And if you like that one, use it. If not, you know, I mean, this isn't a you will know RECIO VS. Just understand what it is. If it works for you, great. There's, you know, you kind of decide, because when you're in the hot seat, you're going to have to be the one that makes that, you know, just makes those decisions. And however you decide to make those decisions, you're going to have to figure it out.
even when you look back on that initial radio report and you saw the acronym that was laid out for it, really it's what we do. So I always had to break down as what do we do? It's me, so engine one's on scene of, it fills in all those acronym components. If you just stick with that one, keep it simple. So the strategic mode, I think that was asked earlier, it's offensive, defensive, or transitional. And one way to look at transitional is an offensive exterior attack. It can buy you time. It can just do a quick knock till you get inside. So it's not necessarily that you're staying transitional. It can also be used to get more resources on scene. You're in transitional to get more resources on scene where you can't actually go in. So it depends on the situation. If you want to add to that one.
As far as offensive goes, Aurora's gotten away from you push fire. We don't push fire anymore with you know.
Doing a
but
transitional?
Is that, yeah, transitional. Did I just say offensive? But is that a national standard? Or is that just?
I would say it has been.
I would say with all of this
Yeah, it's
stuff,
been
I think
proven.
they've kind of done a pretty good job of proving that's
that you don't push fire by doing a transition.
Okay. Cause that's changing 180s kind of.
And it used to be, they did transitional because they couldn't go in and didn't push fire just because of the lack of appropriate PPE. And then it went where you push fire and then it's gone back the other way. And I think those are, I think the NIST studies have pretty much confirmed that you don't push fire. How do you make the decision what you're gonna do? So all those things that we've talked about, right? Your risk analysis, your instant priorities, everything goes into play. Your problem identification, it all goes into play, which way you're gonna go. And for us, we're lucky enough most times to have everybody on scene pretty quickly, that a lot of them can happen at the same time. So defensive. Very wordy. Should be strongly considered whenever operating in and around structures that determined to be structurally unsafe and unoccupied. So how often do you hear, let's go over, because they test some of this. What was that, the garage fires? The 8s went in on the storage units. Remember that one Saturday afternoon?
That one we went to structure, is that on B Street?
I think so, yeah.
Is that your in command? Chief? That
On
one
the
up,
other
No.
side of
the one
Smith
up,
Road?
yeah, up Smith Road,
Uh-uh.
on Peoria.
That was on Peoria, Peoria like 6,
Oh.
down in there. But anyway,
12s
so,
and 11s was first one.
so when you look at that one, what do we think? Do we think storage unit? Personally, I think maybe people are living in them? No? Yeah?
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
All the signs said auto repair, but the initial comments from the people on scene were that there was living quarters inside.
And you see those on your pre-plans and inspections, that's a good indicator for you. But I think, the reason I bring that up, I think we struggle with this one. It's an unoccupied structure because it's nighttime. And it's a commercial. Maybe, maybe not. But we also use it on the flip side to say, it might be occupied, there might be somebody in there. And we go in.
It seems like that's how we tend to be more is,
Could be
Never
somebody in there.
Well, if you don't have any reason to believe that there are people living in there, I don't think you should act under that
Right.
notion. If you get there and somebody's saying something, okay, well, we should probably consider that.
Right.
But
Or in
all
some
things
kind of
being the
industry.
same, it's commercial retail. We're not gonna be as aggressive with that as we would a house for an apartment,
And abandoned,
unless we have a reason to be.
abandoned structures is the same
seems
thing.
like a lot of people